go to the screen anyway. Should be the starting soon screen, even though it has sound from us. Just want to make sure it's working.
I got a commercial on, so it should be.
Okay.
I see if there's sound.
Yep, there's sound. Okay. It's working. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today is Sunday, Sew Sunday, where we will sew today because it's Sunday, and that's what we do every day. And I kind of need a little extra time sewing today, if that makes any sense. I just need it. So, anyways, he's gonna turn some lights on. I didn't realize it was gonna
It's so dark.
be dark, that dark. So if you haven't noticed, we had YouTube issues. We cannot go live from a cell phone. So until we figure out a new situation, I'm actually live from my computer, as just like I was on Thursday. A lot of people actually said they liked it because it was more close up and you could see what I'm doing. But we do have it set up to where you could also see right here, so you can see the fabrics that I'm using, which are the same as I've been using, but you should have a clearer quality visual of what I'm working with now. So that way you know what I'm doing. So we were able to switch cameras, but this isn't going to last long because my computer and the program does not support what I'm doing. So if it kills out, that's not my fault. I cannot control it. So, but we're going to make it work until we figure something else out. Let's see who is all here. We have Susan, Karen, Dawn, Jim, Melody, Yolanda, Betty, Grace, Catherine, Mary, Valerie, Elaine, Kay, Cheryl, Vicky, Susan, Suzanne, Tina, and so many more. There are lots of you here. And to get over the elephant in the room. So this morning, I know you guys, for those that have been wondering and asking me how my dad was doing, he passed this morning, around 8:50 this morning, and that's where I've been actually all day. So I'm kind of pooped from the back and forth driving because it's like an hour and 20-minute drive back and forth. So I'm kind of pooped from that, but sewing is my therapy, so that is why I am still here even after that. And it was time, like I told you guys, he was already dying, so we all got our goodbyes and so on and so forth. So it wasn't a surprise kind of thing. I knew it was happening, so I'm able to deal with it. But I do need my sewing to help that extra little push. So that's what I'm going to do.
They want to see your little mouse pad.
Oh, my little mouse pad. I posted it on Facebook. I made myself a little mouse pad for in here. So that way when I'm in here, I have my little miniature Tula mouse pad. So it's just scraps from a Tula project that I did. Yeah.
Oh.
So it's scraps left over from my Tula project. And I made it into a little thing. I just did it right here on the machine. It's kind of sloppy and it's picking up every thread because that's what happens. But I just cross-hatched it really small. So that's my little Tula project. And then I did another scrap project with Tula stuff. And if I finish what's currently right here on the desk, then I can get to binding the other little project that I just quilted yesterday. Oops, shouldn't be hitting stuff. Anyway, so I'm going to get started on sewing these. If you remember, I left them with their clip that said this is row 1 and then the next one's row 2 and so on and so forth. So I'm just going to start sewing together. When I sew them, they're chevron. The top of this one, where it's a bulky seam, is going to meet up with this one, which is a non-bulky seam. So they should nest nicely. I have them pressed opposite directions. So from row 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 are all pressed to the right, and then 2, 4, 6, 8 are all pressed to the left. So I'm going to go ahead now and start sewing them together. All right, so I'm just going to put them right sides together, and we're just going to start sewing. Now, my talking might not be good. We do not have a microphone running. So my sewing machine might be a little loud, if, you know, because you guys are just listening. I don't know how to run a mic. It doesn't work through this, so I haven't figured out all the things that I cannot figure out when it comes to live streaming from a computer. So I'm not very technology inclined that way, like at all. I just want to call Becca up and say, "How do I do this again?" I can figure out this part, but everything else I struggle. All right, so I'm gonna sew. I should have a better stitch length because I was paper piecing. Make sure that I'm running good here. So it's literally just nesting the seams and continuing on with a 1/4 inch seam all the way down.
Do you do denim quilts on the long
I can quilt a denim quilt on the long arm. It's as long as it's just the denim top only and nothing else, like no minky back or something, because that would just be really hard. Two-sided t-shirt quilts are hard. I've done that too. So it's a little bit harder, but it can be done. The long arm is an industrial machine. It can sew through anything. If I wanted to load leather, it would probably sew. If I changed the needle out, it would probably quilt through leather. Had it written down somewhere, but I don't remember where I stuck it, how big this quilt is going to be. It's just a lap size. I don't know. I forgot. Come on. So for now, I'm just going to finger press one way or the other, whatever way it feels like going. All right, so I'm going to put them together in twos since I'm not at the iron. All right, so let's do 3 and 4. And hopefully I don't get it out of order and stop rolling over the edge of it. What's everybody been up to this week? Everybody have a good week? I didn't get much done. I got one little long arm project done, and I did a paper piecing project. I got that done. Well, not quilted. I need to get it quilted, but I think that's as much as I did this week. Honestly, I didn't do anything else this week.
You worked on the
Oh,
dragonflies.
yeah, that's the paper piecing. I did get the most of the Bargillo ready so that next time on Breakfast at Tiffany's, you guys will, I'll give a quick review and then we'll finish sewing it the rest of the way. Just gonna finger push the seam however it wants to go. I will fix it all on the iron when it's ready.
You gonna show them perfect dragonflies?
No, not until after.
Oh, so tell me.
Yeah, I can't show the project until after. If you guys want to see the project that I was working on Monday the 30th, yeah, on Monday the 30th, I will be on with Becca, Fallon, and Donna from Handmade by Ying with Donna over on her channel.
So not tomorrow, but next Monday.
Yeah, so not tomorrow, but next Monday. I will be on Handmade by Ying with Donna's channel. And if you don't know who that is and you've been following a long time, or who Becca is, or who Fallon is, if you just type exclamation and their name, you'll get a link to their channel so that you can go in advance and subscribe to their channel or check them out. I have lots of YouTube friends. So if you're ever looking for another YouTuber to watch, just ask me, I'll tell you. Yeah. Pretty sure that's who all it is. I'm trying to remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure that's who it is. Okay. So that was 4 and 5. I mean 5 and 6. That was our 5 and 6. Kind of curious what this is going to look like all put together. I didn't choose the fabrics. My daughter Alexa did, so. But I think this is the perfect layout for them being in a chevron pattern.
You don't like your head?
Oh, thank you. I get annoyed of it being up when I have a headache, so I have to leave it down for a while. But it's at that length where it's always ending up. Now that when I lean on a chair, if I go forward, my head gets stuck, or when my hair is wet and it sticks to everything and gets stuck under my arms and all over my back and little pieces end up here, it's annoying. But I like it long. It isn't just stuck to everything when it's wet, because my hair is all over this house. Scott will do laundry and he'll pull his gym shorts out and he pulls off globs of my hair. It's everywhere. Alright, that was 7 and 8. I'm going to do one of those, sew it all together, then iron it kind of things. Oh, and if you guys are wondering, there's a little cardboard thing right there, Scott. You see it on top of that red backing fabric?
Yeah.
It says Fern something or other. I wanted to be able to tell them this last time, and I totally spaced it.
What,
that it was
do you
there.
write it in yet?
Yeah, just what does the name say on it?
Fernwood.
Fernwood. That's the name of this fabric line. Fernwood. It's a Benartex line. Don't ask me the designer, because I don't know that part. But it's pretty browns and blues. I did it again. Pay attention. Sounds like I'm bobbing. 9. Right? No, 9 and 10. Uh, 12. And I'm still leaving one clip on so that I know that this is the top that hooks to the next, if that makes any sense. That way I don't get anything out of order and end up with an upside down chevron. Huh? I forgot what it's going to be. I can give a width.
Big.
This is not going to be big. 49 inches wide is what it will be. I can tell you that. I don't know how long. We will know when it's together. It'll be 60 something, I know that. Okay. 2 more, and then we can put the 2s together. It'll feel good to finally have this project done because it's been sitting on the shelf for so long. What? Yeah, it's kind of dark. Well, we can't control anything right now until we get something new. The funny thing is we got the cell phones purposely to get out of horrible video quality, and now we're back to the horrible video quality. That's okay. It'll only be for a couple weeks, maybe. We wrote YouTube to see if they can help fix the problem, so we'll see what happens when they write back, if they write back. All right. Like this. Come on. 11 and 12 go on top like that. And then bring it over. Come on. Match it up and start sewing. Are there any questions or anything? I feel like I'm silent today. Yeah.
you use to make the ropes for wall
I
hanging?
use ribbon. So sometimes I can't find a matching. I use whatever ribbon I have. My daughter gave me a ton of ribbon, so I use what I have. But if I can't find a matching color, I actually use the binding. So I'll cut off. So say I make my binding and you fold your binding in half before you sew it to your quilt, and you've made extra, so you have like whatever, depending on the size of the wall hanging. Usually on the small wall hangings, I put 4 hanging hooks. So you would take the binding and cut off 4 5-inch segments. And then, since it's already folded in half once, just open it, fold those 2 halves in on top, and then refold the whole thing in half so that you have a skinnier piece. And then just sew down both sides, kind of like you're making a bag strap almost. And then sew on both sides. And then when I hook it into the quilt, I hook it the same as the ribbon. I literally put it on the edge facing down along the top of the quilt, whatever I designate to be the top of the quilt, like here. I make sure that it's down, and then I sew it onto the back side facing down, not up because you can't sew your binding on. And then when I go around and top stitch the front of the binding on, I make sure to pull this up and out of the way so that it has that, that way it can hang up or sit down. If you stitch it facing down, then it sits a little bit different, like if you put your top stitch down on that, then it'll sit differently. But I always make sure that way if someone wants to just use it on the table, these will lay flat on a table, on the back of it. So if you're just using your binding or whatever, but most of the time now I just use ribbon, and ribbon holds it just fine. This is a pretty durable ribbon.
What kind of thread are you using?
I'm using essential thread. This is the kind of ribbon I use. It comes from the, I forgot what it's called, Hobby Lobby. Alexa was buying it for me from Hobby Lobby. It's the Ribbon Boutique. Just regular ribbon. But she gave me a bunch of it, and I didn't know what else to use it for, so I was like, hey, this is a lot thinner than using the binding to make these hooks. I'm going to use ribbon. So I started using ribbon, and it works better. And I could match it to all the quilts if I have the color.
What's your favorite quilt design /
My favorite, I love 8-pointed stars. I love Dresden's, and I love a good churn dash. Those are my favorite. I do have video up. If you look at my binding videos, if it's a small quilt that I'm doing and I'm putting hanging stuff on it, then it should be in the video. Hopefully. But I've showed it on a few Sew Sunday live streams where I did binding as well. Okay, so now we want 9 and 10 on top. I use magazine boards because they're bigger. Comic boards are skinnier, so I think they're 8.5. No, I don't have one in here. I don't have any. I use magazine boards, which are the same size as regular paper, so they're 8.5 by 11 or something like that. So magazine or comic boards are like 6.5 probably. They're a lot smaller. I have both because I ran out of magazine boards and had a ton of comic ones. But I prefer the magazine ones. They sit on the shelf better. But it's the same thing.
You have a video on fussy cutting Dresden?
I do have a whole entire Dresden series. Not on fussy cutting them, though, but I do have a Dresden series. And truth be told, I don't actually fussy cut anything. There's only like 5 or 6. I did some, there's a word for it. Quilts that you see picture. What is it called when you look for a certain picture? I Spy. I did a couple I Spy quilts where I actually cut out specific parts of the fabric for the I Spy. Other than that, I don't fussy cut really anything. I mainly sew from scraps for those that are new to my channel, and when I do have regular fabric, it's jelly rolls, layer cakes, charm squares. But I mainly make scrappy stuff, and there's no need to fussy cut scraps. I'm just going to open this because I'm going to press it. All right, let's put this one on top of this one. Yeah, this is definitely just a lap quilt. I know I'm not a greens and browns person, but it's growing on me. Once I see it all together.
Do you lay fabric on the comic book boards up or out?
I have a whole video on how I store my fabric. So if you go to how I store my fabric video, or what is it called? It's something how I did my fabric, or whatever. How I organize my fabric. That's what it is. I have a video to show. I just literally, if your fabric comes off the bolt and there's a fold at that top, I fold that fold down to the uh, selvage also, and then it's folded in four pretty much, and then I just roll it on. And I don't put any clips or anything. I used to when I was in the garage. I'd put pins and stuff to hold the fabric on, but now I don't have to. It's all sitting on shelves, so it sits in there nicely and nothing's falling off the the little bolt. All right. So far, so good. I'm sure take a drink. Jim put a link for the fabric storage and for the Dresden sew along that I did. If you guys want to click on it and save the video to watch later. More. keep leaning against my hair. I'm used to keeping it up when I'm in here. But I just showered and washed my hair, so I'm leaving it down for a little bit. I sounded like it was almost out.
I was gonna say it sounds.
It always sound. You can hear the sound, the bobbin if it's spinning in there. I'm like, oh yeah, it's ready.
We could have done that.
No, I'll do it real quick. Okay. Last row to sew on here. I knew this would go quick.
We're gonna switch to this camera.
When I show them after it's ironed, just to show the colors, and then I'll put it on the wall while I sew the next thing that I have to finish the binding. Go ahead and press this. I'm gonna grab this last clip off of here. Put all these in my little number case. All right, let me press this and out. Be back, even though I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere.
Not running away yet.
Not running away yet. Just take a minute. Well, probably like 2 minutes. I will press the seams nicely later. Right now, I'm just giving it a quick go over.
I want you to know that she made the top of the picture window thing. And it turned out great. Your instructions are wonderful, beautiful.
For with the window picture,
Yes.
the window pane quilt.
Yes.
Awesome. The window pane quilts are fun, and I'm glad I was able to ease that for you guys, making those videos.
Becca's on. Let's say hi, Becca.
Hi, Becca.
What have you been doing her thing? Your paper piecing.
Oh, she knows. I'm not even paper piecing.
Did you tell her I got to help take the paper off?
Yep, Scotty got to help turn the paper off of my paper piecing project, Becca. Like I said, I will press this better off camera, but for now, it's whatever.
They changed it to that camera. I could have turned it. I just saw you on.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, we're going to see how big this is, and then I'll swap the camera. We already knew it was 49 by 30, 2, 4, 5, 50. That's wrong. My math was 28 plus 28.
56.
56 times, yeah, 56 by 49. So it's 57 because it was in the half. Okay. I'm just going to lay this here so you guys can see the true colors of this quilt. So these are the colors that are in it. As you can see, with these, when you're doing a chevron, the smaller part right here where it's a thinner seam meets up with the thicker seam. So really it's not a problem. And they match up just right. Some of them are not perfect, but you'll never touch. So it's okay to have a seam going to the right and a seam going to the left to nest them up when you're doing a chevron, because they're not going to be a bunch of bulk. But if you want to press them open, you can. I never saw a need to with chevrons because you really don't need to. They sit really nicely and they sew really nicely, as you've seen. So these are the colors. Kind of looks guy-like vintage to me.
It does.
It does. It reads guy vintage. It's definitely a man's quilt. It's not a girl's quilt. Well, unless the girl likes greens and blues and taupes and browns. All right, I'm going to hang it up on the wall. We'll bring out my other project.
You're saying the sound is gone.
Oh, so this camera has no sound?
I don't know.
It should be there. It's showing their sound. Is there sound? Is there sound? Is there sound? Sound. Sound. Can't hear. Sound is gone. I'm still seeing it. Let's go back to this camera. It was top up on the mic. All right, there it is on the wall. It looks darker than it really is.
So we can't use this camera now?
Well, there's no sound to that one. I don't know how to do that.
Oh.
I don't know how to make sound to each camera.
Okay. So if we use this camera, they can't hear us.
Yeah.
Well, YouTube is making this quite difficult.
It's not YouTube. This is the program for me. This is all me.
I'm saying by YouTube not letting us use the cell phone.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely messing it up. All right, so this is the project. There's going to be no sound for a second. Let me just show you the project I'm going to be putting some binding on and how I'm going to put on the hanging sleeves. So there that is. That is my little project. We're going to put some hanging things on it. Let me show you the quilting real quick before I change again. This camera has falling lines.
I don't know what to say.
All right, so I'm going to put some hanging things on here. I need to find the direction that I think suits it. All right, that way. All right, so here's my ribbon, and this is how I do this. For those that were asking, you're going to get it live right now. You don't even have to go back and watch another video. I'm going to take my ribbon, and I'm going to cut 4 5-inch sections off of it. So 4 5-inch little pieces. And the reason why I do 4 and not 3 is when it hangs on the bar, the dowels that I have for it, 3 seems to make it wave more. With 4, it keeps the quilt flat completely. There's no waving at all. All right, so I'm going to cut off 4 5-inch pieces. 1. And I'm doing them in black so it stays pretty well hidden on the back of the quilt when it's laid down. 3 and 4. All right, ribbon out of the way. I also pre-make my little tags. It's literally just a 5-inch piece of fabric, and I embroidered on it. It's folded in half, so it's like a little envelope. Okay, and then I folded it right side out for the picture, for the writing. It's right side out, and then before I do that, I sew down the sides, and then I top stitch all the way around. So that's how my tags are made, and I usually put them on at 2 3/4 inch. So I usually attach it to the bottom or the side of the back. So that's what I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to put this on the bottom real quick. And I always do some back stitches just so that in case it gets yanked or something. I need to choose a thread color. We're going to go with, this one looks the most like what no, it does not. This one might look the most like what I quilted with. We're going to call it close enough. Let's see what this one looks like.
Switch to the other camera again.
Why was there sound again?
Some are saying there is, some are saying there isn't.
So is there sound while we're here on this other camera? Out of the way. Let the camera catch up to the video. Is there sound? Is there sound?
Talk.
I'm talking. Is there sound? Yeah, they're saying yes. Okay.
Oh, so this camera is working now. I don't know. Well, it is, it isn't. I don't know.
All right. Let me roll a bobbin real quick for this. I don't need a full bobbin. I just need a partial bobbin to, it's a small quilt. I just need to find an empty one here. And then I'll show you how to attach these. For those that are so curious. I like hanging this way. I think it looks, when the quilts are hanging with these hooks instead of a sleeve across the back. I think it looks clean and polished. All right, that should be enough bobbin to go all the way around this quilt twice. Put that there. Put that there. And then tie this through. Two seconds, just putting the matching thread through.
What's the ribbon you're using?
The ribbon is, again, it's just from, I don't know if this is going to be washed out if I hold it. Yeah, this camera doesn't autofocus. So it's the Ribbon Boutique. You can find it at Hobby Lobby. It's just 1.6. Hold on. It's 5/8 of a yard. 5/8 of an inch, sorry, or 1.6 centimeters. So it's just regular ribbon. All right, this is how this is done. We're gonna put this on a line on the mat so you can see. I'm gonna center it. So I have it right here at these marks right here. This is how I do this. I literally take, where's my fourth piece of ribbon? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Right here, there's 2 inches. I go to the inside of the first 2 inches like this, and I fold it on top of itself equal. And again, I do 5 inches because you never know how big people's dowels are or curtain rods or any of that. So I'm going to put a clip right here to hold this there. Then I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to go to the inside, you know, the outer side of the 2 inches. So I'm going to line this up at 2 inches. I'm going to match my 2 ends exactly. I cut them exactly and lining them up exactly. Because if you don't, you're going to have a wonky hanging wall hanging. Put it exactly on the edge on the inside of 2. Then I count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 15 and the 25. So I'm going to go to the 16. Yep, I know. I said 15 and 25, but I'm going over to the 16, and I'm on the outside of it. And I'm going to go over to 24 right here, and I'm going to go on the inside of it. So they should be equally spaced. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the center. So they're equally spaced apart. And before I attach binding to it, I always sew these on first. So I take these over to the machine.
You ever use flannel inside of a quilt?
I have used flannel inside of a quilt before. I take these over to the machine. I remove my clip very carefully, and then I stitch this on. I go back and forth with the forward stitch, back stitch like 3 times, just in case it's, you know, being yanked on by grandkids or something, hanging on your window curtain or on the wall or something. Although I think the dowel would fall first, but you know, I just make sure that it's fully stitched on. And I just do all of these. I make sure 100% that they are fully aligned with the edge of my quilt and fully aligned with each other. And it's square, not crooked. We don't want them hanging crooked. All right. So now those are on. And then the binding is really easy. Let's switch back over. I'm going to find my binding, my first seam, just somewhere around here. I'm going to line it up. We're going to see where my seams land.
Apparently don't lean forward and talk. When you lean forward, they can't hear you.
Oh.
Sit up, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. All right. I'm going to see where all of my seams land. I don't want them a corner. I despise when that happens. All right, where's that other seam? Right there. Okay, perfect. This is where I'm going to put it. Just like this. So I found where I want it, and now I'm going to sew it on. I always stitch onto the back and then flip it to the front. That's just how I do my binding. All right. I'm going to leave a tail. I'm going to switch my stitch length to about a 2.5 and just go all the way around. Binding is really quick and easy. We're going to move that out of the way though, because that's just going to get knocked off the table. Hit that and knock that off either. Right here, turn it sideways, stitch off, and there it goes. I knew that was going to happen. Sorry, guys. Hopefully, I didn't lose anything or break anything. Is this still a good picture? Right there. I don't have a permanent situation for the computer to sit. It's on a stand because it shakes on my desk. So temporarily, the computer is sitting on a not computer stand. And all the cables that run to the camera and stuff are literally not where they're supposed to be. Huh?
What do you do if your seam lands in a corner?
Well, I always make sure my seam doesn't land in a corner. And if you're doing a big quilt and you don't have a way to lay the whole thing out, I always say if your first seam lands beyond your first corner or well above 10 inches below or 10 inches from, then it shouldn't land in any other corner. It's just like, I don't know, I'd have to say maybe 4 quilts I have ever done that land in the corner, but as long as your seam is 10 inches away from either part of the corner, then your next seam and your next seam and your next seam should not land in the corner. And it's not a general rule or anything, it's just for me. I just don't like them in the corner. I mean, I still sew it, but... And if you're unable to sew your binding seam landing in the corner, if you're unable to get that right, just pick it out a few, long enough to have a tail, and then resew a new seam above or beyond, where it is, resew a new seam, and then continue on. We always make our binding longer than it needs to be, right? So I'm just going to knock that over again. Just drives me nuts when it does happen. But I've unpicked a seam before to get it out of a corner. All right, so I'm coming to the side that has my hanging. I know you can't see those because they're black, but on black. My hanging things, I'm going to make sure that they are down. We don't want them up right now. We want them to stay down. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn my quilt, start my edge, and I'm going to make sure that the binding is laying on top of my hooks. And my hooks are laying nice and flat. Because if they're bent or anything, then you're going to ruin the way it hangs. So you just need to make sure they stay flat. That's why we pre-sewed them down first. All right. Right there. Maybe sew onto a little bit. All right, now I'm just going to cut an end off right here. I'm going to come over that length of this little cutoff. It's 2.5 inches. Make sure that this is flat and just cut it right there. I only needed 3 strips of binding for this project. And I'm going to place this one down. I'm going to scrunch up the quilt like this and bring this one on top of it, right sides together. And I'm going to sew my diagonal seam from corner to corner. I'm also going to change my stitch length for that. Make sure that it's nice and square. I never cut until I do this. Oh, look, it's perfect. Just to make sure, I've been doing this a long time and binding is easier and easier for me every time I do it, but I always make sure that I did not flip it because it happens. If you're not paying attention or you're trying to rush like I do 90% of the time, you'll end up having flipped binding. And then you got to re-sew it in it, especially if you pre-cut it off. Ooh, that's not fun because then you got to re-add what you cut off. Like, I just cut this accidentally and now I got to put this back on. It's a hassle. So always lay it first, then stitch or cut.
The old adage, measure twice, cut once.
Yep. With this, it's like measured 5 times, then cut. Make sure. Alrighty, now to top stitch. So I just
long arm denim?
Huh?
Long arm denim?
No, only for when I did that one t-shirt quote, I had one denim thing in it. That was it. It must have came from like jeans or something. So I don't long arm denim, but I know I can. All right, I'm gonna flip it to the top and stitch all the way around, except now I'm changing my stitch length to a 3, which is 3 millimeters per inch. 3 millimeter stitch length, which is like 10 stitches per inch. And I just top stitch. I'm gonna make sure that we don't hit that on the way around because we're gonna knock everything down again. We don't want that. Okay, so the first corner I'm gonna come to is gonna have my little hooks. And we're gonna make sure that those are out of the way. So I'm gonna make my 45-degree miter and hold that. I always take a stitch in to that next side and then out and then back in again. I back stitch. All right, so we're gonna pull, I don't know if you can see this right here, but here's the hanging tag. I'm gonna pull that up and out of the way. And it's gonna feel like the presser foot is gonna wanna shift to the side. Just go slow. If you're using your binding fabric as your hanging hook or whatever you wanna call these, I just call them hooks. If you're using your binding fabric, it's going to be just a little bit thicker right here. So just go very slow or use a walking foot. But honestly, I don't use a walking foot and I just go slow and it doesn't shift. It feels like it's going to, but it seems to be pretty straight. And when you're using a 2 1/4 inch binding instead of 2 1/2, it's a little tighter. But this is a 2 1/2, so it's not that tight. There's plenty of room to get around the hook. But the hooks are pulled out of the way. If you sew over them, they'll just hang flat down. You want to make sure that they're out. Because if it's sewed over this way, then you're going to have a stitch on this back side and then it won't hang up as high. And you want to get the most of your hook. Sure that last one's out of the way right before a mitered corner. I'm gonna hold that miter down and then stitch. I have one hand holding my hook out of the way, and then my other finger is holding my mitered corner. Once it's passed, then I just do my back stitches, turn it, and the rest of the way around is simple. Even where my tag is, that'll stay up and out of the way on its own. These little projects are so easy. They're like quick done and in a hurry. Like, come on, land where you need to land. Thank you. I don't want that to hit that again. And there it goes.
It's okay, I'll get it, I'll get it. Did I pass the screen out?
Nope. That just knocked me sideways. Well, I'm on the last side, so it shouldn't happen again. I just need to straighten my screen out.
Is this supposed to go in something?
No,
Okay.
no, everything's plugged in where it's supposed to be.
Okay. It's okay, it happens.
We're gonna have to figure out a solution so that this stops happening. I'll probably have to bring the pink table in and put the pink table on, put it with the pink table on it.
That's actually a good idea. That might work.
That way I don't knock it and I just put all that stuff on it. We have a little folding TV table.
I mean, we'll have no room in this room.
Yeah, then there'll be no room in here. Alright, I'm gonna stitch. Bring up my thread, pull away, snip it. Snip the starting thread as well. And there it is, all done. So there's my little project with this little hooks. There's 4 of them so that I can hang it up equally. Like I said, when you do just 3, it sometimes doesn't want to lay straight. So I do 4 to keep the quilt completely flat when it's on dowels. Wow, it's like covered in thread though now. There's just thread everywhere. I saw a regular long arm thread though. Where'd that go? Right there. All right. So I was able to get from the quilt that's called It's a Quilt. It's a Tula quilt. It was done as a line work challenge. I think that was here on my channel actually, the line work challenge. The start of it was here that I did with Ian, Becca, and Teresa Louise. So Ian off quilter, crafter Ian, and then So Becca, and then Teresa Louise I Quilt too. We all did that challenge with the line work fabric. And this is the amount that I had left, enough to get this. This was 2-inch squares, and I had 3 blocks left, which is right here. Here's one of the blocks. And then I was able to get from the even smaller scraps my little thingy, my little mouse pad. So now you see why I keep my scraps, because I can make stuff like this with my little 1-inch pieces.
They can see it better on this camera though, because this camera's bright. That camera's dark.
All right, so let's look at it under the camera again one more time. So here's the hooks right here on the back side. I probably should trim all the threads. I usually get them all, but haven't yet. So the hooks just hang down. So if you want to use it as a table topper, see how it just sits? And it sits nice and flat because it's ribbon. If I would have put the binding, then it wouldn't be as flat. It would have a little bit of a lip, but Since I started using ribbon, it sits really flat. That's my little project. So I did the one on the wall and got this bound, and now I'm done. I'm literally done. I don't have anything else left to do. All right, let's switch back up here. So I'll cut this thread off, putting it away in my lovely thread case. And that's it. Put this one back up here and reroute this one.
You have some little scraps you could sew underneath this camera where they can see really good.
No, not really. Okay.
What are you gonna do? Are you gonna have a border for the quilt on the wall?
No, I don't have any matching fabric for that. I'm just gonna quilt it and bind it as is, the one that's on the wall. No. I don't know. I don't think I should put a border. I might have something that's similar to this, but I don't think so. I think I'm just gonna bind it and leave that as is.
Well, then we'll see the label.
Oh. Label. That's where I put my label. I don't know if it's gonna wash out. We don't have these aren't like cell phones. They don't automatically adjust. Takes a second. So it just says Tiffany's Quilting Life, made with love, Tiffany Groff, which is me. That's all I do on those. I either make a corner one that goes on big quilts, that goes in the corner, or I make these for all the small quilts now. And I try to remember to put them on all the small quilts. Table runners, on the other hand, I don't. Wall hangings, I do. But table runners, I really don't put these on because it's just a table runner. So, but I sign them for fans that get them, so they get a signature at least. If I can. If it's black, I usually can't. But there's that. All right, I guess I can sew some hourglasses while we're here.
There's not much to do with your question.
All right, let's
Give them something to do.
pull out my pile of need to make hourglasses. So if you guys haven't been following along, I have been working on these hourglasses. I have 2 whole containers, literally, with them so far. They're not trimmed yet either. They're all going to get trimmed to 2 inches because they're not all around this. They're similar in size, but some of them are really big, some of them are medium big, but most of them are not 2.5 inches. So I'm going to trim them all down to 2 when I get a chance because I need a whole heck of a lot of them to make what I want to make with them, which is just a giant quilt of them. So I have this container that I keep filled with all the cutoffs from binding, like what I just made right now. And I take all these cutoffs and I sew them into pairs. And they're just random and scattered. So like this Christmas stuff I could put with this purple because I really don't care. Or I can put it with these browns or, you know, whatever. I just kind of make piles and pull from the piles and start sewing. So that's what I'm going to do for a little bit. We'll just sew these. If I can find a hole. Oh, those all go together. Okay. We have a bunch of whites. You can tell I bind a lot, right? These are all cut off, so these ones are not from binding. These ones are from actually making a quilt. Those are from my pinwheels. Oh, I didn't know I threw that down there. All right, so I'm just going to start grabbing and sewing. These are a different blue. Oh, no, those are the same blue as that blue. That blue is the same. That blue is the same. Here's red. Oh, we can put the red with these. All right. And there's batiks mixed in here. It's not just regular fabric. Oh, that's pieced. I don't want that. I don't use the pieced ones. All right, we're going to sew red with red. I'm going to switch camera. Make a 1/4 inch seam. And I don't change the thread color. Whatever thread is in here at the moment of sewing them, I just sew. I'm going to line up 2 ends, put the corner in, and sew on. And change my stitch length. So, oh, that's sewn too. I don't want the sewn ones. So this now goes on the bottom and on the top. This is how I do it. So anytime I just want to sit and sew, these are the kind of things I sit and sew with. And eventually, someday in the future, I will get a whole entire quilt out of all of this. Like I said, I mix batiks with regular. It doesn't really matter. Those are tiny. Put 2 of these. Do I have what? One little box. Oh, I guess I can. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. My butt is sweaty. I'm sorry, guys. My butt is sweaty. I'm pretty sure you guys all have that same problem sitting in your chairs. And it doesn't help that this one is vinyl. All right. Yep, I just start making pairs and sewing pairs.
Is the quilt behind you your pattern?
The quilt behind me is just an average, there's a word for it again, chevron. That is what a chevron quilt looks like. You don't really need a pattern. They're literally from charm squares that are 5 inches. So on both sides of a drawn line, cut down that drawn line and get 2 half square triangles. And yeah, that's how that works. It's fairly simple. And then you just lay them out in a chevron. And if you want to like Google other half square triangle designs, you can do that and get tons of different ideas. And last Sunday, I gave you a bunch of ideas right then and there on the live stream that you can do with your pieces. This quilt, making these is like years in the making. I wonder if I'll ever get it done. Maybe by the time I'm like 60. That's a long time for me. Oh, I just realized those are stars on there. Come on. So I sew them together. As you can see, I put the triangle part in first, sew down it, then I put the square part in second, so it's always in pairs, and when I snip it apart, I will literally have pairs, which I'll show you right now, because I'll just snip these apart so you can see what I'm talking about. So every 2 I snip apart, and they're already ready for me to finger press and put right sides together into an hourglass.
You can't see that camera. Can you show them this one? At least I can see.
So it's already, let me finger press this to that way and finger press it to this way. So every time oh wait, that camera's facing. There we go. Every time I pull them off in pairs like this, I literally have them together
May I rotate it a little to the side?
No, it's fine.
So it's closer to you?
No, it's fine. Just like this. So they're always ready for me to sew them together in sets of 2. So I put the point in first and sew down, and then the butt in and sew down that. So I literally just need to put them together. It's fairly simple. And I just make hourglasses. Yay! And here's an example of not paying attention. They're both on the same side. That's funny. I'm like trying to show you how I do it, and then I mess up. Okay. So let me sew the opposite side real quick. 2 of these, 2 of these. So this one on this side first, like that, and this one on top. And pay attention to the thread. And I can't run both cameras at the same time on the same screen. It cuts out, so sorry if I didn't switch it back yet to the sewing machine. All right, now these are opposite side. See, so there's opposite side. I just need to finger press those to the opposite side. And then I gotta do this one's opposite. That's gonna go on the bottom, and that's gonna go on the top. All right. So now I could sew them together. Nest my little seam and just make rows of them. Chain piecing the whole lot of all of it. Sometimes I literally will work on these for hours and I feel like I never get any accomplished. I think it's because I've made so many of them. And it's typically only from 2.5-inch cutoffs. But there are some, because I forget, there are some 2.25-inch cutoffs in here. And I'll sew them because I'm making 2-inch squares anyway from it. Let's do one more. And when I finish this finally, someday in the future, it'll be one heck of a scrappy project. But it won't be the first fully hourglass quilt I've made because I have made another hourglass quilt. Tyler has that one. That's one that I gave to Tyler, your little cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep, a long time ago. And that actually had the batting. I used a hospital blanket inside of it. So you can use whatever you want. If you want to take apart a comforter and put it inside of a quilt, or say, you know, somebody in your family passed away and they had a favorite blanket, but it's ugly as can be, put it in the middle of the quilt. You know, sew a beautiful quilt and use that as the batting. You can do that, you know. Nobody says you can't. It will be heavier though if you use like a regular blanket. Just don't use an electric blanket because I'm pretty sure sewing through that would not be a good idea.
Yeah, I know.
Make sure that there's no electric in the blanket. But you can literally go to like the thrift store and they always sell, just like Walmart does, but it's actually cheaper if you get them from the thrift store. You can get a fleece blanket and you can take and use that. If it's just a plain, say, purple colored fleece blanket, just use it. You can use it as the batting. No one says you can't. Just thought I'd throw that in there. You know, some of you don't know because you're beginners, but yeah, You can put whatever you want inside of a quilt. Nobody's gonna know because it's got a top and a back. And just like that, I have a bunch of hourglasses. Well, not a bunch yet, but eventually I will. So they're so adorable.
Crazy when you can see through an electric blanket, just never plug it in again.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't even do that. It would ruin your machine probably just going through those.
Is your hand quilt in the closet?
Yes, my hand quilt is in the closet. I just haven't quilted it yet. Maybe this winter I might tackle it with some big stitch quilting. I have all the thread I need for big stitch quilting. I just need to figure out what needle to use because I have no clue. I don't hand quilt, but I could always ask a friend who does, and they'll be able to tell me, hey, this is what you need. I have tons of different needles for tons of different things. I even have big giant curved needles that are supposed to be for like, putting eyeballs in teddy bears or something. I have no idea. Every time I would buy from estate sales and stuff, sometimes I'd get boxes of things. I have no idea what it is. And I kept all the needles in case I ever wanted to hand sew.
What's your long?
My long arm is a King Quilter 2 Elite Special Edition. Again, special edition on that thing is just because my screen is bigger. But I think now they all sell all of them with the bigger screen. Pretty sure of it. All right, let's sew these. These with these. Why? Because it doesn't make sense. But hey, again, it's a scrap quilt, so it doesn't really matter. Nope, two of those on top. There we go. I feel like I'm sideways still. It looks sideways. I need to pull more colors out of them. This is the part where it's like no thinking sewing. You just sew the pieces together. You just want to sew. This is the kind of thing you would sew with. So for all of you who do save your scraps, these are the kind of things that you can do with your scraps.
I don't have a long arm. Can I use a fleece blanket on the back of my regular machine?
Yeah, I've seen people free motion quilt with fleece blankets. If you look up the sewing channel, Tracy with the sewing channel has used fleece blankets as the back, and she free motion quilts everything she does.
Do you sometimes wish you had a computerized blanket?
I do want the computerized for my long arm someday. The only reason why is because I do get a lot of long arm jobs, especially around Christmas time. I get stacked with work. So sometimes I'm like, well, I only know how to do so much. And 5 people send me their Christmas quilt. So 5 people are getting Christmas trees because I don't know how to put Santa Claus. I don't know how to do any, I know how to do holly leaves and berries, loops and leaves, like I know how to do stuff like that. But I don't know how to put Santa and reindeers flying across the quilt. I don't know how to do any of that kind of stuff. So I feel kind of limited on Christmas related themed stuff. So having a computer, being able to press the button on a specific thing, that would be nice. Like Halloween stuff. I never know what to do besides custom quilting on Halloween quilts for my clients because I don't have a computerized system. So whatever I know how to do and make up is all I know how to do and make up. But then I do like being non-computerized and everything is original because every single quilt is not the push of a button. So I mean, sometimes I'm like, oh, whatever. But eventually, someday, I want it, and maybe then they'll have a really good system for it. So those are like almost the same color. I am not putting those two together. Ooh, I got some polka dot ones in here. Let's use some green polka dots.
Yeah, but I think it's better than those computerized machines.
And the crazy part is I have clients that, they have gotten their quilt back and they're like, well, I had a machine quilted quilt before, and this looks exactly like a machine did it. I can quilt like a machine did it. I am the machine. you know, I can make it look like a machine did it, especially edge to edge designs. I just can't do all those other things that I'm limited. I probably know like 100 basic designs in my head. And I can swirl the swirly out of any quilt any day because that's one of my favorite things to quilt. And Scott, he's like, he comes into the living room, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
you're just having too much fun. I just like to sit at the machine and swirl. I like pointy swirls. I like rounded swirls. I like oval swirls. I like all kind of anything swirly. I'm a swirlaholic. Yep, I can dance while quilting with the music on when I'm swirling. I'm a swirlaholic. If everybody wanted swirls on their quilt, I would do it on everybody's quilt. But then I'd probably get bored of it and want to do something else. But I like to swirl. That's why if you've seen a lot of my, videos when I show you guys things that I've done, a lot of times it's something with swirls on it because I just love swirls. Ooh, here's a pretty pink. Let's put a pretty pink with a pretty brown. No, that's wrong. Oh well. We'll just sew two opposites. So that one's on that one. We're going to sew two that are brown on the bottom, pink on the top. Bottom, pink on the top. When I catch myself, I try to fix it right then and there. Let's put this pretty blue. These are too small. That's what I kept inside. This. Two of these. I feel like I'm not talking again. Okay, I'm gonna go back the other way again. Alright, so snip these apart. Okay, all these are singles. Put them on that side. Alright, now to sew these sets together. Have I what?
Ever had to pick out a quilt because the back stitches are messed up?
I've had to pick out so many quilts. Seriously. But I do realize it when I'm on the long arm. So that's a plus. It makes it easier than finally finishing it and then taking it off the frame and then realizing that the stitches are messed up. I usually realize it while I'm right there on the long arm and I'm able to fix it right then and there. And usually Scott helps me with the picking.
Yes, I do.
He will sit there with me if it takes an hour to pick out the whole row. He'll sit there with me. We just listen to music and pick away.
If you want to see us pick out a whole quilt, it took us more than an hour. It took us more than a day.
Yeah.
We spent 2-3 days working on this.
These are going to be funkies because I still sewed the other one wrong. How did I manage that? I don't know. That's what happens when you're not paying attention, but you're paying attention at the same time, or at least you're attempting to. I'm trying here. I'm trying.
Is there an easy way to get stitches out?
Yeah, so when you're plucking stitches on a quilt, I don't want to pluck anything right now that I have here because that would just ruin it. But what you do is you create yourself a tail. So you pluck out a stitch until you have a tail. Once you have that long tail and you're going the opposite way of what you quilted. So if you just came down this way, when you go to pick it, make yourself a tail from that bottom and pick back that way. So when you pull that tail, you stick your seam ripper in and snip, and like 3 or 4 will come undone. And then you snip and like 3 or 4 will come undone. And you just keep making yourself a long tail. We usually wrap it around our fingers and then pull, snip, snip, and then the whole thing comes out really easily. One of the long arm quilting videos, maybe it's not, maybe it was a Sew Sunday that I long armed, but I'm pretty sure it's a long arm quilting video. I actually show you guys how I easily unpick large sections just by doing that. They do make shaver, like a shaver, it looks like a head shaver or a mustache shaver. They do make those for unstitching things, the razor, the stitch remover. I don't think it works very well on the long arm. They also make it to where if you lift your quilt top up and separate it from the batting, you can use a razor blade, or it's a special razor blade for picking out stitches, and you just pull and swipe across that area. But I find that I do have it and I've done it before. I find it to be very, very messy. The easiest and unmessiest way is to just make a chain and pull it out, wrapping the long cord around. And when it gets too long, snip it off and start a new long tail and snip away. It's fairly simple to do. And surprisingly, it actually goes pretty quick, the unstitching. We've unstitched a whole row in less than an hour. That a row that took 15 minutes to quilt and make a big mess of Takes less than an hour to unpick if you do it right. But I have to pick a lot on the long arm because I get frustrated sometimes with my custom quilting, and then, you know, then I pick it out. Or if it's a client quilt and the tension is just ever so slightly off. Scott doesn't see it. I see it. It could be a minute amount and you just barely see it, but I see it and I remove it because it's a client quilt and I really don't want to send them back something that's messed up. I don't need bad reviews.
I don't see any of this stuff you
Keep-
always say is
yeah.
bad. I think it's amazing, and you're so picky. It's this is bad, that's bad.
Yep, I don't like it. If
Yeah.
my tension is off ever so slightly and I go around a quick curve or something and there's just one hair of an eyelash, or if I go into a point and I come back down and one eyelash sticks up, I pluck out that whole area. I'm just so bad with that. So bad.
If I can't tell, your clients can't tell.
Yeah. But I can tell. I know it's there and I need to fix it, you know? Boy. Oh, come on. Did I press that literally that way? I try to nest these scenes, and sometimes I'm not paying attention and I press them both the same direction. Oops. Sorry, guys, my feet are starting to swell. Ugh. Yeah. Let me finish these last couple pieces, and then if you guys have any questions while I'm sewing this, ask now or forever hold your peace until next Sunday. Yeah, I just want to finish this little pile real quick, and then I need to go put my feet up.
It's up to you.
Almost done. There's really like 5 more pieces, 4 more. 5 more. That's okay.
Can you stitch the Baptist fan free motion?
Baptist fan free motion. Like, no, I cannot. I've done it. The one time I did do it with the rulers, it was a hassle because I had to keep switching the size of the ruler, and I can do clamshells with the ruler really nice, but it does take a lot of work to do that, so I don't do it often unless someone requests it, you know, because they want it. But I don't do Baptist fan really or anything like that because I can do like a sloppy version of it, like, you know, and then go the opposite direction, like a sloppy pointed version of it. I can do that. I can also do like on square quilts. A lot of people have wanted me to just cathedral window. So dot to dot to dot. I can do all that free motion. I don't need to do it with rulers. But if somebody wants it nice, then I'll do it with a ruler. And if you've seen any of my long arm videos, you know I kind of fling quickly around. I move the ruler so fast, you know. All right, 2 more. Any more questions? Yeah, I'm not, I mean, I know how to quilt things, but everyone's asking where Thumper is.
Yeah.
He's being a fat lazy cat somewhere in this house. He's
Garfield.
probably licking himself because that's what he does all day long.
No, he's sleeping now.
Yeah.
He did that all day long while I was gone.
Yeah.
All day. No matter how many times Daddy threw spell.
Okay, so here's my lovely stack that I need to iron and put in my lovely little bins when I get a chance. Just if I do these little by little every time I finish a quilt, I might end up, finally getting this whole pile down and then have to start a new pile. But eventually, all this will be a quilt someday. Someday. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get off of here, my friends. I really need to put my feet up because they are swelling, and that's kind of annoying, actually. So now I got to figure out how to end a stream because I don't even know how to do that on here. We did it yesterday. I just got to remember what I did. So thank you guys all for watching and hanging out today. Sorry, the camera disaster. It's going to be like this until we get a new situation, and I have to learn new things too. So, which is kind of a struggle right now, but I'll figure it out. We will figure it
Are we gonna
out.
be out tomorrow morning?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
We'll
sometime
give
tomorrow
it a shot
morning for a
tomorrow
mail
morning.
opening. We'll give it a shot. Um, if anything, I can just go live from my cell phone in an up and down view, but I don't like doing that.